I treated her like an experiment instead of a person. She said, you removed her autonomy. You made decisions about her body, her behavior, her feelings without her knowledge or consent. That's not a mistake. That's abuse. I said, I wasn't trying to abuse her. She said, abuse isn't defined by what you meant to do. It's about what you actually did. You impacted her in a way that made her fear for her safety. That's abuse. I didn't want to accept that. But sitting there in her office, I couldn't really argue. She said, over the next several months, we're going to work on understanding why you thought this was acceptable. What in your background made you think treating a human being like a dog was a reasonable approach to relationship problems? I said, it wasn't like that. She said, it was exactly like that. And until you can acknowledge that, you're not going to grow from this. Sessions with Dr. Huang were brutal. She didn't let me get away with anything. Every time I tried to rationalize or minimize what I'd done, she called me on it. She made me read books about consent, about emotional abuse, about power dynamics in relationships. She made me write letters to Jess that I'd never send, apologizing and taking full responsibility. She made me confront the fact that I'd used the guise of science and psychology to justify controlling another person. It sucked. But it was also the first time I started to actually understand what I'd done. Around week 8 of therapy, Dr. Huang said, I want to talk about your relationship with your dog. I said, Maple? What about her? She said, you've mentioned multiple times that you love your dog more than you've loved most people. Why do you think that is? I said, dogs are uncomplicated. They just love you. They don't have expectations or demands. She said, they also don't challenge you. They don't require emotional vulnerability. They don't ask you to grow. I said, I guess. She said, you chose a relationship model with Jess that replicated your relationship with your dog because it felt safe. You could control the inputs and predict the outputs. But humans aren't dogs. Humans have autonomy and complexity. And when you tried to simplify her into something you could control, you dehumanized her. I said, I didn't mean to dehumanize her. She said, but you did. And you have to sit with that. I sat with it. It was around this time that I found out Jess was seeing someone new. I didn't go looking for this information. My mom ran into Jess's mom at the grocery store. They'd always been friendly. Jess's mom apparently mentioned that Jess was doing well, had started dating again, seemed really happy. My mom told me this gently like she was breaking bad news. I said, that's good. I'm glad she's happy. My mom said, are you though? I said, I don't know. I want her to be happy, but it's also kind of hard to hear. My mom said, that's normal. You loved her. I said, I did. I just didn't know how to show it in a way that wasn't messed up. My mom said, you're figuring it out now. That's what matters. But honestly, I wasn't sure I was figuring anything out. I was just going through the motions. Probation check-ins, therapy sessions, community service, gig work to pay the bills, living in my childhood bedroom. I felt stuck. Like my life had been paused and everyone else's had kept going. One night I was doing a late DoorDash delivery and I saw them, Jess and her new boyfriend. They were walking out of a restaurant holding hands, laughing about something. I was in my car waiting at a red light. They walked right past me. Didn't see me. Her boyfriend was taller than me, better looking probably. He opened the car door for her. She smiled at him the way she used to smile at me. The light turned green. I drove away. I called Keith the next day. I said, I saw Jess with someone. Am I allowed to be in the same area as her if it's accidental? He said, as long as you don't approach her or try to interact, yes. But if she sees you and feels uncomfortable, she can report it. So my advice is to avoid places where you know she might be. I said, the city's not that big. He said, I know, but you have to be careful. One violation of the restraining order and you go to jail. I was careful. I stopped going to places I knew she liked, stopped going to our old favorite restaurants, even switched grocery stores.